It has come to this: the United States of America, the self-proclaimed beacon of freedom and democracy, has decided to throw its moral compass into the shredder and replace it with paranoia, hypocrisy, and sheer political theater. In a reckless move that reeks of fear-mongering and double standards, U.S. lawmakers have introduced a bill so outrageous that even history's most shameful policies might blush. While waving flags and beating their chests about national security, they dare to criminalize young, ambitious minds who crossed oceans to learn not to spy. But perhaps this isn't about security at all. Perhaps it's about old, festering insecurities in a nation that sees its dominance slipping and will do anything, including targeting innocent students, to preserve its illusion of superiority. Yet China is not a passive victim in this drama. The Chinese Communist Party, with its ruthless censorship, surveillance, and intellectual crackdowns, has built a system where freedom is ornamental and obedience is law. It sends its brightest students abroad not only to study but sometimes to harvest secrets, to play double roles as scholars and silent agents. While Chinese officials shed crocodile tears in press conferences, back home, they imprison thinkers, muzzle journalists, and erase dissent with Orwellian precision. Their outrage at U.S. policies is laced with the same hypocrisy they accuse Washington of harboring. This is not a story of innocence. It is a power play by two giants, both so intoxicated by control, they are willing to crush the very people who could bridge their divide. On both sides of the Pacific, the real casualties are the young minds caught in this crossfire of arrogance and fear. The U.S. brands them spies. China brands them traitors if they dare think independently. Universities stand by, issuing sterile statements while collecting tuition checks soaked in silent complicity. The tech world trembles, academia watches helplessly, and lives hang in the balance, all while politicians in tailored suits sharpen their knives for the next soundbite. The future of science, innovation, and global cooperation is being traded for cheap political points. Stay with us till the end as we peel back the layers of lies, expose the power games, and reveal the high-stakes chess match in which the pawns are brilliant students silenced, shamed, and sacrificed. Hello and welcome back to Innovative Check YouTube channel, where we delve into the innovative and transformative projects changing our world. If you're new to the channel and enjoy learning about innovation stories around the world, you've come to the right place. Please subscribe, like, and comment to help boost our videos on YouTube. Chinese students across the U.S. woke up to a chilling reality, one that many describe as a blatant witch hunt wrapped in political language and dressed up as national security. The Stop CCP VISAs Act, introduced by Rep. Riley Moore, immediately sparked fear, confusion, and anger among thousands of international students who had only hoped to pursue education in an environment they believed was open and free. Conversations in dorm rooms, coffee shops, and libraries from Harvard to Stanford turned into whispered debates and anxious speculation. Students who had once felt welcome in the U.S. now questioned their very presence. Wei Zhang, a computer science graduate student at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, said he felt personally targeted. "I came here to contribute," he said quietly, looking over his shoulder in the university library. "I work in cybersecurity, and the irony is that my research is about making networks safer for everyone." Wei paused, lowering his voice. "Now I feel like the enemy." At Yale, students gathered in informal meetings, attempting to understand how fast this legislation could move through Congress. Zhai Lin, a law student originally from Shanghai, described the climate as suffocating. "When I decided to study law in the U.S., it was because I believed in fairness, due process, the idea that laws could protect people instead of harming them," she said. "Now those same ideals are being used against us." The bill, introduced in the House and soon expected to hit the Senate floor with the help of Sin. Ashley Moody Raflay, has far-reaching implications beyond what most Americans may realize. Tied to a broader push by the U.S. government to decouple from China's growing technological influence, the Stop CCP VISAs Act has ignited debates about academic freedom, racial profiling, and the long-term future of scientific research. Michael Hotchkiss, Princeton's Assistant Vice President of Communications, tried to strike a reassuring tone in a press release. "Princeton supports and advocates for its international students," he said. But many students are not convinced. I don't trust statements anymore," said Jing Xu, a biomedical engineering PhD candidate at Johns Hopkins University. "They release statements, But they don't stop the legislation. They say they support us, but what happens when they are forced to choose between federal funding and international students? They will choose the funding, they always do. Already students are beginning to make plans to leave. Some are calling home, looking at universities in Canada, Australia, and parts of the EU. Even for those who remain, the psychological toll is mounting. At Columbia University, Chen Ming, who studies artificial intelligence, spoke candidly. "I'm working on AI models that could revolutionize healthcare," he said. "My professor was excited about my work last semester. This semester, he barely looks me in the eye," Chen described, watching academic doors slowly close. Invitations to collaborate withdrawn. Research funding suddenly redirected. The slow, suffocating process of exclusion. Some administrators are attempting to push back, but quietly. "There's a limit to what universities can do," admitted one senior administrator at Stanford University who requested anonymity. "Federal law is federal law." While Republican lawmakers argue that this is about national security, critics call it political theater at its worst. Riley Moore's office released a statement claiming the bill was a necessary measure to protect U.S. intellectual property. Yet, as Princeton student organizations pointed out in an open letter, no evidence was provided that Chinese students in general posed any threat. "The sweeping nature of this bill makes it clear this is not about individual cases," said Gisela Kusakawa, executive director of the Asian American Scholar Forum. "This is a racial purge in academic clothing." The Asian American Legal Defense and Education Fund has already signaled intentions to challenge the bill if it becomes law. "We're preparing for a fight," said Margaret Fung, the group's executive director. "We've seen this before. It's the same old fear-mongering dressed up in new language. But legal challenges could take years, and for students currently enrolled in U.S. universities, the uncertainty is immediate and personal. Many describe fear of being followed, of having their devices searched, or of random knocks on their dorm room doors by federal agents." At the University of Michigan, the incident where 5 Chinese students were confronted near a military site has become the new cautionary tale. "It was stupid," said one of those students in an exclusive interview, speaking on condition of anonymity. "We were just curious. We took photos. They accused us of espionage." He showed emails from the university's international student office, warning about inappropriate travel and reminding students that the political climate is volatile. This has sent shockwaves across campuses. Some professors have gone as far as advising their Chinese students to avoid certain research topics or stay away from sensitive areas. Others have started quietly withdrawing Chinese students from collaborative projects funded by federal grants. "I used to feel safe in the lab," said Wen Zhou, a chemistry PhD student at Caltech. "Now I feel like I have to watch every word I say." The financial impact of this legislation, if passed, could be catastrophic. Chinese students contribute an estimated $15 billion annually to the U.S. education system. They pay full tuition, often without scholarships, bolstering university budgets. But beyond the economics is the human cost: dreams shattered, futures uncertain. At the University of California, Berkeley, an emergency town hall meeting was held last week. The mood was somber. "I think this is going to be a defining moment," said one faculty member who works closely with international students. "The question is whether we want to be a country that builds bridges or burns them." The Chinese embassy has called the bill discriminatory and dangerous. In an official statement, spokesperson Liu Pengyu said, "The hope of China-U.S. relations lies in the people. Its foundation is in people-to-people exchanges and its future in the youth." He warned that passing such legislation could trigger retaliatory actions from Beijing, potentially impacting American students studying in China and escalating tensions between the two superpowers. Just a quick reminder to hit the like button below. YouTube has been restricting my videos a lot recently because of bots, so your like does help out this video massively in terms of the algorithm in YouTube. Still, Riley Moore remains defiant. In a press conference flanked by Rep. Jim Banks and Rep. Mike Gallagher, Arwis Moore declared, "I will not stand by while the Chinese Communist Party infiltrates our institutions. This is not about students, it's about national security." But critics argue that this stance is short-sighted and reckless. "You cannot separate the students from the nation," said Professor Amy Wang, who teaches international relations at Georgetown University. "They are ambassadors of culture and knowledge. Cutting them off only isolates us further." At New York University, international student advisors are overwhelmed. Their inboxes flooded with emails titled, "Am I safe?" and "Should I leave?" Some students are already booking flights home, unsure if they will be able to return. Others are considering legal action, seeking asylum, or transferring to universities abroad. Meanwhile, American universities are facing a moral crossroads. Do they stand up for their students or quietly comply with federal directives? The coming weeks will test their resolve. The bill's ripple effect has already reached Silicon Valley, where Chinese graduates are vital contributors to the tech industry. Executives from companies like Google, Microsoft, and Apple have expressed concern in private meetings, fearing a brain drain that could cripple innovation. In boardrooms across Silicon Valley, the conversations have turned tense. CEOs who once boasted about their global teams now find themselves scrambling to navigate what they describe as a dangerous precedent. An executive from Apple, speaking off the record, admitted that the company's dependence on talent from China is significant. It's not just coders or engineers. He said, "It's researchers, mathematicians, and innovators who shape the future of our products." He added that limiting that pipeline would leave U.S. tech companies vulnerable to stagnation while competitors abroad race ahead. Google's chief legal officer, Kent Walker, sent a carefully worded internal memo acknowledging the legislation, urging calm but also reminding leadership teams to consider contingency planning. The message was clear: prepare for talent shortages, prepare for relocation packages, and prepare for legal fights. The irony is not lost on anyone. As the U.S. government pushes for decoupling, it simultaneously invests billions into technologies that depend on the very talent pool it now seeks to restrict. AI, quantum computing, and biotech are fields with fierce international competition. China has already made tremendous strides, with companies like Baidu and Tencent racing ahead in AI development. U.S. innovation cannot afford to lose ground. At TSMC, executives have expressed quiet dismay. The semiconductor giant, headquartered in Taiwan but deeply intertwined with both U.S. and Chinese markets, sees danger in escalating hostilities. "The future of global technology doesn't happen in silos," said one senior advisor. "Cutting off collaboration is a recipe for failure." On campuses, fear has turned into anger. Protest signs reading "We are students, not spies" appeared overnight outside the Library of Congress. Chinese student organizations, joined by allies from other international communities, held candlelight vigils across Washington, D.C., San Francisco, and Boston. The message was simple but poignant: they came for education, not espionage. Still, the political machine grinds forward. In a heated debate on the House floor, Rep. Jim Banks, RNDN, claiming where universities had become breeding grounds for CCP infiltration. He pointed to reports, later disputed, that certain Chinese scholars had access to classified military research. The lack of concrete evidence did not seem to matter. What mattered was fear, and fear sells. In response, Rep. Grace Meng delivered an emotional speech defending international students. "We cannot allow baseless paranoia to poison our institutions," she said, her voice trembling. "These students are here because they believe in what America promises: freedom, opportunity, and fairness." Meanwhile, at Harvard, a chilling email from the Office of International Education warned students to be cautious in public spaces, to avoid discussing sensitive topics, and to refrain from social media posts that could be misconstrued. The message only heightened the climate of suspicion. In Chicago, several Chinese students canceled planned trips to nearby military museums, fearing accidental violations of perceived security boundaries. "We used to go there for fun," said Li Wei, a graduate student in mechanical engineering. "Now, we fear we might be arrested for something innocent." The Chinese embassy in Washington, D.C. has increased its outreach efforts, offering legal support and counseling for students. Hotline numbers have been posted on Chinese social media platforms, advising those in the U.S. to be vigilant and to report any harassment. If you are enjoying this video so far, please don't forget to subscribe, share the video, and comment. Some American academics are quietly pushing back. An anonymous petition signed by more than 1,500 faculty members from universities across the country calls on Congress to reconsider the legislation. The petition warns that such measures not only damage academic freedom but also endanger the U.S.'s leadership in global education. "We attract the best minds from around the world. said Dr. Robert Silverman, a political science professor at Stanford. If we begin turning them away, we lose our edge. The world doesn't wait for us. In California, a group of venture capitalists, including Peter Thiel and Vinod Khosla, expressed concern that upcoming restrictions could dry up investment opportunities. In a joint letter addressed to the Commerce Secretary, they argued that talent, not tariffs, fuels competitiveness. The Senate is expected to debate the companion legislation introduced by Sen. Ashley Moody Rifla later this month. Already whispers in D.C. suggest that while the bill may not pass in its current form, elements of it could be incorporated into broader national security packages. The slow erosion of freedoms often begins with the language of safety. In Atlanta, Emory University held a closed-door forum with Chinese students and faculty members. Emotions ran high as students shared stories of feeling surveilled, both by their host country and, ironically, by their own. "We are caught between two giants," said Hui Xiao, a second-year medical student. "Neither side trusts us." Across the Atlantic, EU officials are monitoring developments with concern. A statement from the European Commission highlighted the potential fallout. If the US pushes forward with discriminatory visa restrictions, the EU may respond by offering expedited visa processes for affected students. Academic freedom is not an American privilege, the statement read. It is a global right. At Columbia, economics professor David Weinstein warned that the damage could ripple for decades. The U.S. has historically benefited from an intellectual open-door policy. He said during a panel discussion, "When you close that door, others will open theirs. The long-term consequences are severe." China has not ruled out retaliatory measures. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Beijing issued a thinly veiled threat. If Chinese students are sanctioned, American companies operating in China may face regulatory scrutiny. Already, companies like Tesla and Apple are nervously watching Beijing's moves. In Houston, Chinese community leaders held a press conference condemning the proposed legislation. Xu Liang, chairman of the Chinese American Cultural Association, called it a return to the dark days of the Chinese Exclusion Act. His voice broke as he recounted stories of students too afraid to leave their apartments. The situation has even caught the attention of former U.S. officials. Condoleezza Rice, former Secretary of State, spoke cautiously on CNN, warning that while national security must be taken seriously, sweeping measures often backfire. "We must not forget our values in the pursuit of security," she said. At the Pentagon, internal memos revealed concerns that alienating Chinese students could harm military innovation. The Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, DARPA, relies heavily on research from academic partnerships, many of which involve Chinese nationals. Cutting those ties could set back critical projects. At the University of Pennsylvania, a young Chinese researcher named Li Hua published a paper on bioengineering last month that has already drawn international attention. Her work has potential applications in regenerative medicine. Now, she is reconsidering future projects. "If I can't stay here, I'll go to the EU or Singapore." She said, "Science doesn't stop for politics." Thank you for your attention, and I welcome your thoughts and questions on this complex and vital subject. Do you want to watch more videos like this one? If yes, please like and share the video and subscribe to get exclusive videos about how phenomenally China is developing and growing its influence. Your subscriptions and likes motivate us to generate more content, so please keep supporting us. Check out this video showing on your screen right now, and I will see you on the other side.